People, we have made Ben Joravsky Show history. I am like 4.5 hours away in downstate Illinois, and Ben Joravsky is in his attic in Chicago, Illinois. The Ben Joravsky Show is live, people. All right, you can't stop this show.
No, this is a setup for when I actually take the show on the road to Hawaii.
Oh,
start doing the show as a remote from Hawaii.
It won't be a remote. I'll be right there with you if you're going to Hawaii.
Let's go hang out outside a volcano, drink some Mai Tai, smoke a little reefer. That's how you do it. Podcast, all right, Dave?
How's it going, everybody? Yeah, we're trying something different here. I took a last-minute trip. I had a buddy. He was in Chicago. He's also from downstate. He went downstate. I said, you know what, dude? Let me ride with you. I'm bringing my equipment. Let's see if we can do this. And here we are. I am live in my mom's apartment. The acoustics are a little funky. You can hear a little bit of an echo. I'll probably fix that on post-edit. It's a little podcast term there, Ben. Fix that on post-edit.
Ooh, got that little post-edit thing going.
And guys know my mom's not here, all right? So don't ask to have her on the show. She's not here.
Come on, she's going to sing the opening song with me. I thought that was the deal we cut, no?
No, I told her that, and for some reason now she's gone, so...
All of a sudden, she had that little Ferrari and she took off.
Oh, hey, Claire. What's up, Claire, on the live stream chat? She's back on the live stream chat. What's happening? You're joining us for a special. I'm downstate. It Ben's in Chicago.
Special.
Oh,
we
my God.
This.
For those wondering, also, yes, I have Arby's. All right, it's hanging out in the kitchen. So while we do our interview today with Adolfo Mondragon, I'm going to be eating a little roast beef sandwich, all right? So, good times. All right, let's get today's show underway here. Your Ben Joravsky Show for Thursday, March 11th is just moments away. But before we do this, let's thank our sponsors. Sponsors like SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana.
That is correct.
All right, the sound effects working from downstate too, Ben. Wait, let me check this one. All right, we're in business.
Well, they bet Darren Bailey. Perhaps our next governor of Illinois.
The Chicago Federation of Labor are sponsors, as well as the Chicago Reader, chicagoreader.com. Subscribe, all right, for all things there is to know. The city of Chicago, what to do, where to go, what to eat, what to drink, what to wear, just all things. The city of Chicago. Go check it out, chicagoreader.com and chicagoreader.com/Joravsky. Ben works there too. JORAV as in victory, SKY. Become a Ben head. Uh-oh. Hearing a little crispy noises here. Okay, hang tight, everybody. Check one. Check two. All right, still a little crispy. Ben, tell people about your book, because if you become a Ben head, which is an avid, what we call avid listeners of this program, Ben heads, you can find more at Joravsky, chicagoreader.com/Joravsky. You can also get a deal on Ben Joravsky's book, The Greatest Hits. Ben, tell people about your book, could you please?
Yes, I will. Love talking about this book. And Dennis and I are going to do a special about this book. Yes, I'm announcing that here right now. We're going to do one of our classic bits where Dennis interviews me. I really love those. But it was, I'm looking through it right now, and the first article in it is one that I thoroughly enjoy. And this article, you can't get it anywhere else but in this book because it's not online. It's so old, it's before the Reader started putting its articles online, from April 4th, 1986. Central Committee in which Chairman Verdoliak, that's Eddie Verdoliak, is reelected, and Alderman Mell acts like a jerk. I was there, folks. This is back in 1986. I was at that meeting where the committeemen for the Democratic Party of Cook County met and convened. This is in the days of council wars. It's ancient history, but I was there. It's firsthand reportage, if you will. And I watched as the white committeemen, how about this, Chicago? What a city you have. The white committeemen all rallied around Eddie Verdoliak, and the black committee with a few white allies, a few of them, voted for John Stroger. This is ancient history. John Stroger was Harold Washington's candidate to defeat Eddie Verdoliak for chairman of the party. And I observed some pretty funny things. only in Chicago things involving a certain Alderman Richard Mell. I wrote it up. I didn't write the headline, D, but I swear Alderman Mell held a thing against me where we called him a jerk for years. He wouldn't talk to me. Then his son-in-law, Rod Blagojevich, wouldn't talk to me. And people go, man, Ben, I don't know what you did, but Mel hates you. He's always talking. He hears your name. That mother beep. Yeah, you know, time heals all wounds, D. And eventually Mel forgave me. Or maybe he forgot what happened. Who knows? But he came to a First Tuesday. Anyway, this is just one article. This is the opening article. And the second one has to do, is the one where I mentioned Monroe Anderson. I'm going to talk about this when Monroe comes on the show, but it has to do with the great Leonida McLean. And there was an event after she died, after she committed suicide. Clarence Page, who was a Tribune columnist, put together a collection of her essays, and there was a book reading. This is December 19th, 1986. So if you just kind of want a sense of like a time capsule, go back in time. And these stories that I did were, how do I put this? It was, so it wasn't conventional reporting. I actually never went to journalism school, and I never learned, I was never taught, I should say, how to write a conventional news story where you have the lead. I don't know if anybody out there has been to journalism school, but there's a basics 101 of how you write a story with a certain kind of lead. You try to put as much information at the top, and as the story goes down, the information that you put is supposedly less and less newsworthy. I can never understand that. I always like to tell a story almost like a fable or a parable where you just let it unfold in its own way. And that was that was one of my first struggles in this business of journalism, because I kind of rebelled against the conventional way of telling a story or writing a news story. At one point I had a job as a newspaper reporter, and they made me, kicking and screaming the whole way, learn the ways of the business. And then I went to work for the Chicago Reporter here in Chicago, my first job in Chicago when I moved here in 1981. And they were very old school. They very much, John McDermott, may he rest in peace, the publisher, the reporter, had the old school way, with the conventional leads. So I learned how to do it, but I didn't really love doing it that much. And so it was just sort of a natural, I guess. It was inevitable that I'd find my way to the reader, the alternative newspaper, which essentially encouraged its writers to follow their instincts on how they tell a story. So you could have sort of like a fictitious, like it was almost like a short story you were writing, or fiction, where it's sort of a long, windy lead. Those older reader stories were very long, so you just had to have the patience to sit down and take the deep dive. And I would be doing one a week, one story for the reader a week. Things I'd seen in Chicago, go to meetings, go to events, and go to rallies, interview characters and write it up. And D, it's just, to me, when I go back and read this book, it just takes me back in time. And one of the things I like about it, we're going to talk about this when we do our special, is I have just a sample of all the Pat Quinn stories I did. I got a kick out of this. Our friend Pat Quinn, former Governor Pat Quinn, used to come on the show all the time. I haven't reached out to him in a while. I will. But when I first moved to Chicago, Pat was he was kind of like me. He was on the outside. And so I was kind of attracted to him because, outsiders attract one another. People are not part of the club. And so he would be having these weekly press conferences. I don't know if they were weekly, but he would have routine press conferences pushing some initiative or another. And so, I mentioned this. I must have done a half dozen Pat Quinn stories down through the years. Yeah, I think the way it worked this way, D, was after all the mainstream reporters turned him down, he would call me up, Ben, I got a good one for you. And I dutifully write it up. So I got I bookend them. The first Pat Quinn story I ever wrote, which is 1987, Dennis, 1987. Yeah, little Dennis was 3 years old in Alton, Illinois. Okay, he'd never heard of Pat Quinn. And then the last one I did was in 2016 when he got me to sign his petition for term limits. He broke me down, D. First I was against term limits, but he had his petition going around. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
To probably passed. The city is so corrupt. Don't get me started, D. Pat Quinn went out and gather thousands and thousands of signatures to force a question on the ballot. Do the voters of Illinois, do the voters of Chicago want to limit a mayor to 2 terms? It was clearly, obviously directed at one, Rahm Emanuel. And when they had the vote in 2018, Rahm took his lawyers went to court, and they got kicked. Of course, the judges rule with Rahm. Of course, if you're a judge, I don't care what the case is. If you're a judge in Cook County in Chicago, and you're looking at, I got Pat Quinn on one side, who's an outsider, and nobody supports him on the inside, and Rahm, the ultimate insider, who was pals with presidents, raise $1 million like in a month. Whoa, who am I going to decide with? So yeah, the powers that be went with Rahm, and somehow we got to vote on it, but they wouldn't tally our votes. Remember that, D? I talked about that forever. So I believe that the voters passed that referendum, but they didn't count the votes. Only in Chicago, ladies and gentlemen. That's your city. So anyway, I've got just a couple of articles from the book, D. But you and I are definitely we're going to have a blast. I could see this. We're going to have a lot of fun doing that. You could make fun of me for being old and talk about some of these great stories. So yeah, it's in the book, Ben Joravsky's Greatest Hits.
Those stories and more. ChicagoReader.com/Joravsky. The book's available now if you want to buy it. But if you become a Binhead, an avid listener of the Ben Joravsky Show, that's what we call our avid listeners. You can subscribe, give us a monthly fee there, and you will get a deal on the book. All right. This is hands down the longest intro we've ever had. Your song of the day comes from Frank. It's Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd.
Frank, I love this song. I'm just going to say this. I love this song. I've loved it from the moment I heard it. And whenever you don't hear it in like oldie station, but you hear it on classic rock. We're going to kick off with a little Floyd. 10 in a row. Started off. A little brick in the wall. Just another brick in the wall, wall, wall. I love it at the end. Yeah, how can you have your meat if you don't have your pudding? Oh, wait. I think I flipped that, D. You can't have your pudding if you don't have your meat. But somebody corrected me the last time I blew that. Remember that, D? Love that song.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Thursday, March 11th, and live from my mom's apartment and his attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's election lawyer and resident foulmouth, Adolfo Mondragon. And now your host, starting to become a resident foulmouth, I've noticed lately. Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Got My Shot Thursday, and here's why. Because I got my shot. Yes.
That is correct.
I know you're thinking, thank you, Darren Bailey. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait, Ben, just yesterday you were saying you were going to be getting your shot at the end of the month at the United Center. What happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. Yesterday's show ended, and I got an email from Advocate by the hospital, the medical entity that controls my life. And I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I knew I had this baby boomer panic that I get. I've talked about this before. Like if I push the wrong button, the whole thing will go away. So folks, I'm not really proud of what I did next. I called my wife at her beauty parlor and she said she had a moment to spare. Boom. I ran right over to that beauty parlor and my wife gave the phone to my wife and I got an appointment for this morning at the ungodly hour of 10 a.m. Yes. I was up with the wood choppers. That was me. I was up with the robins, getting those birds. And went right over to Illinois Masonic Hospital. And I just want to thank everyone involved. They couldn't have been nicer. They marched me in. They sat me down. A dude in medical gown came up and says, do you have any allergies to shots, sir? And I said, no. And he says, all right, big feller, roll up that sleeve. And I'm like, that's it? You're going to do it? And he goes, that's it. And then pop. He bought me. But here's the problem, D. They made a mistake. Instead of giving me the vaccine, they gave me LSD. One pill makes you larger.
That did not happen. That did not happen, guys.
Suddenly, I feel like I'm a brick in the wall. Just another brick in the wall. No, that is just right. They did not give me LSD. Wouldn't that be funny, though? Oh, wow, man. Anyway, no LSD. But I was thinking all the waiting, all the complaining, all the anxiety, all the calling the shot line and emailing the shot line and the exasperation. Why am I the last person not to get an appointment? They don't like me. And then all of a sudden you get that appointment and it's like so anticlimactic. It's like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. They booked me for a second shot. And after that, I'm free. Folks, I'm going to go down to the lakefront and smoke a doobie with the guys hanging out on the rocks.
Also, that is not going to happen.
I haven't done that since the mid-'70s, folks. I'm not really going to do that now, but I'm just trying to think of the most social distance thing I could do. You know what I mean? To celebrate not having to worry about getting this disease. So I'm feeling a little optimistic today, folks. Usually I'm a little on the gloomy side. Feeling a little, just a tinge. You know me, D, and I don't really like feeling optimistic. It's not really my thing. I'm more that gloomy guy. It's just, I'm feeling like we are slowly, and I mean slowly. I mean, it's like an inch forward and a half an inch back, but slowly coming out of that COVID cave. It was just like a year ago. I was talking to Dennis before we did the show. It was like a full year ago that we left our beloved studio. D, for 10 trivia points. Let's see if you can answer this one. I don't think you could. We did not do this in pre-show prep, folks. So this is going to be a true test. Who, it all works from Alton. Who was the last guest in the studio for the Ben Drosky Show? Young Dennis?
Jeff Johnson.
No.
Oh.
Although he was, God bless him, he was ready to come in. Come on, let's go. Love Jeff Johnson. Stood by me when I got fired. Love you, Jeff Johnson. Anyway, Sergio Mims.
Oh, that was my second guess. Damn it.
We're not going to say how Sergio predicted what he had to say there. Let's just put it this way. I would not go to Sergio for advice on the COVID. Anyway, after that, we went into the cave, and I think about the year and all the uncertainty, people out of work, businesses closed, me walking out into the street to avoid somebody on the sidewalk, that last ride on the subway. I still haven't been on the subway, D. Heard a guy cough. I'm like, oh, God, can you cover your mouth? Just total madness, no rules. This has never happened. People figuring out as go along. But yeah, damn. Getting that first shot. It's like, we're almost out of it, man. I could go out to eat. I could see a movie. I see a play, go to a baseball game with my friends, go to a basketball game at my friend's house. Maybe. This could be the start. Feeling pretty good, but you know me, D. I got to complain about something.
Good. So, that's what makes this show, man. We can't have you all positive and happy 24/7 now.
So this cheery stuff about feeling good, huh?
Thank God.
Yeah, I know that. Hold on, let me open the window and throw it out.
Let the cat out of the bag, would you?
All
right.
I tell you what, that COVID shot has not affected my special effects, huh? WTTW right now is going, oh, this guy's good. Anyway.
Whatever you want to believe, man.
WBZ is like, man, is there any way we can get this guy part of the team? So, yes, got to complain about something. So let me complain about Republicans. Republicans, I'm just going to be honest with you. You are worthless. Not a single Republican voted for Joey B's COVID recovery bill. Oh, but they're going to be cashing those $1,400 checks. And if they're out of work, they'll be cashing those assistance checks. And if they run a city or a state, they'll take the cash to bail out their budgets. Oh, yeah, they'll take the money, but they won't lift a finger to make it happen. And you watch, folks. It's just going to be a matter of days before they send out their little computer attack ads about tax and spend liberal Dems. They'll take the money and rip the Dems for sending them the money that they're taking. What a bunch of frauds. Sorry, all you Republican listeners out there. I know you're out there. You don't want anybody to know, but I know you're out there. There's no other way to say this. But your party is worthless. And there's no shot that can cure that. We got a great show today, everybody. Adolfo Mondragon, as Dennis said, will be here, election law lawyer. He is fired up, D. I was talking to him before we went on the show. He's got this case against Danny Solis, the former alderman. Well, we'll get into the details when Adolfo comes here, but if he wins, and folks, it is a long shot. I began the show by talking about how Pat Quinn had no chance going up against Rahm Emanuel because the powers that be in the state are not going to rule on Pat Quinn's favor when it's up against a powerhouse like Rahm Emanuel. So Adolfo Mondragon, his lawsuit, if successful, could mean that Ed Burke and Michael Joseph Madigan have to pay their own legal bills. No way, D. No way. No way the state is going to let that happen. They'll concoct some legal excuse for it. That's why you go to law school, ladies and gentlemen, to make it up as you go along. But I think you should all hear about what Adolfo's cooked up and the case he's got. His client is Byron Sixto Lopez, as a matter of fact, who was supposed to be on the show yesterday, but we had to cancel. But he'll be on the show next Tuesday with Laureen, his wife. So anyway, Adolfo Mondragon will come on. We're talking politics. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, who's back in Alton, and everywhere he goes in Alton, if he goes to Arby's, if he goes to Billy Bob's, it's always, hey, what's going on, Dr. D? With the news.
How's it going, everybody? Don't know one person named Billy Bob. And my name's Dennis.
BYRONSIGCHOLOPEZ.
Oh, thank you very much, Alderman. Adolfo Mondragon will be coming on later. Guys, let's get a count going on the live stream chat, all right? How many F-bombs does Adolfo Mondragon drop today, all right? I'm going 46. That's my number, 46.
Yeah.
What say you, live stream chat? I'm going 46. What about you, Ben? What do you think? How many F-bombs is Adolfo dropping today?
Just F-bomb straight up. Any word with the F-bomb in it, right? Just, okay. I'd say 27.
Okay.
So Dennis, I'm writing this down. Dennis, 46. Ben, 27. There we go.
All right, cool. So Adolfo Mondragon coming on a little later. No Frank on the live stream chat. I do not know who Joe Bob Briggs is. Huh? No, guys, but yes, it's a Ben Joravsky show first. I am downstate in Alton, Illinois. In fact, actually, I'm going out later tonight here. 1 second. I got to check something real quick. Hold on. I'm going to check. Got to give a check here. Hold on. 1 second.
What may be getting done differently.
Check the Alton weather. Hold on.
Tom Lane State Farm, we're still here to help you get it done right.
All right, cool.
Give us a call at 618-377-8912.
All right, weather.
Weathervendor.com time is Thursday, March 11th, 1:27 p.m. Flood watch now in effect.
Oh my,
Current
flood watch.
temperature is 52 and light rain. Northwest winds at 2.9 miles per hour with a wind chill of 52 degrees.
Oh boy.
Today's forecast.
Thank you.
Cloudy and cooler with showers and thunderstorms, especially early in the day. High of 54.
All right.
Low 45. Okay. Sunset at 6:04 p.m.
Oh. All right, cool.
Is it raining there?
Yeah, it's raining. Raining right now. Downstate Illinois.
It's sunny
Sorry.
in Chicago.
I've been a little busy today. I had to check that weather real quick. All right. So, yes, downstate Illinois. We'll see how this goes. Kind of had a microphone issue there earlier. I think I figured it out. We're going to rock this bad boy out as long as we can here today. Adolfo Mondragon will be joining us very, very shortly. All right, guys, let's do the local news. Happy anniversary. This damn dirty coronavirus pandemic is 1 year old. Hard to believe, really. Ben Joravsky, let's go back to 1 year ago. Did you think March 11th, 2020, that we would be still talking about and living through this stupid thing on March 11th, 2021?
No, did not think that. I thought 3 months maybe. No, did not think that at all. In fact, you and I were holdouts. Like, the reason why it's not exactly 1 year to the day that we left the beloved studio is because if you recall, young Dennis, if you recall, the Sun. I just had a memory about the Sun Times. Our beloved Bright One. You know, Bright One, I love you. I still subscribe to your newspaper. But I don't know how much it goes both ways. But you remember, D, they told everybody else. They told everybody else, go home. Don't come back because there's this dangerous disease out there. And nobody told Dennis and me. So we still kept showing up. It's awfully empty around here. What's going on? I think that it was like Ramada. Ben, they've told all the employees who work in the building not to show up anymore. I go, well, what are we? Chopped liver? Anyway, so yeah, it's... We staggered on for.
I remember in like July, I'm like, all right, dude, I'm gonna try and get us back in the studio. Let's do this. Let's go. Yeah. I was like, yeah. How crazy.
We did. You and I. Oh yeah, we're just a little while. We're gonna be back in my beloved studio. I love that studio, man. But what are you gonna do, D? Life goes on, and you adjust, and now it's suddenly like, hey, I could do this show while I'm in Alton, hanging around with my friends. What up, Alex? Or, hey, I could do the show from Hawaii. Let's go. Dennis is like, I'll go to Hawaii. You should do a GoFundMe. Send the Ben Joravsky show to Hawaii. So,
we're not doing a GoFundMe for us to go to Hawaii.
No, you're right. I did not expect this to be going for a year. And like I said, I got that shot today. And I had to, I was standing on the corner waiting for my wife to pick me up. And I was like, is this it? That's the beginning of the end. Like, this is the start. We're going to emerge. But now I'm back in my attic and I realize it's going to be another 3 weeks before I get the second shot, another 2 weeks until I'm cleared to go. So it's really only the very, 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 very early beginning. So no, D, no. I did not expect us to be doing this a year from now. And a long year it's been.
So what time? So Ben, you got your Ben got his vaccine shot today. By the way, if you're just joining us, I don't know, it's not radio. I'm sure you've been joining us the whole time. But Ben, you just what time did you get your vaccine shot? What time was that?
It was 10 a.m. this morning. 10 o'clock. I was up and early. I went over there to Illinois Masad. Just like I said, it was just like a great thing. And by the way, when you get your shot, you will get your shot. You go through all these different checkpoints. Can I see an ID, sir? You show me I show my driver's license. Okay, go there. 3 different checkpoints to show my ID. And then bam, in and out, man. All right, beat it now. They give me a little, hey, you want to see my Band-Aid, D? Huh?
Oh,
see my Band-Aid?
There's your Band-Aid. Great.
I was wearing my Good Luck Chicago Bulls t-shirt. I told the guy, I go, I'm wearing my Good Luck Chicago Bulls t-shirt. And the guy's like, okay, this one here. What potato truck did he fall off of?
Well, now I remember before you got the shot, like right when the vaccine was starting to come around, I remember a phrase that you would always say is, let these other people get it and we'll see how they feel. So I haven't got the shot yet. How do you feel?
Well, like I said, man, one pill makes you large and another pill makes you small. I feel okay. Now, I've heard, my sources have told me, and I've got sources, that the second day is actually worse than the first day. I just heard that.
Get ready for tomorrow's show, guys. You know how to sell this program tomorrow on the Ben Joravsky Show.
I got so many people booked up for tomorrow. I'm telling everyone contingency things. We have a great show tomorrow, folks. I know we should be concentrating on today's show, but D, I feel great. So I know I was that one guy. Well, I'm going to let everybody else get the shot. And if nobody's dropping over dead from it, I think I'll get mine. Yeah, I may have said that a few times, D. Yeah, I may have said that. Yeah, I may be guilty of that. So, got my shot. Feeling pretty good, D. Urging everybody, go get your shot. Dear friend of mine, Norm, said he's not going to get a shot. Come on, Norm. Get that shot. Want all my friends together by June going to a White Sox game. Not going to see those Cubs. A White Sox game.
All right. Find him at a guaranteed rate field in June. Ben Joravsky. Maybe he'll autograph your book. His greatest hits book. All right. So since we're going back into time, I went and found audio from 1 year ago from both our Illinois governor and our Chicago mayor on March 11th, 2020. They were both attending the same press briefing. So, well, there's one thing that has changed since then. They don't really do. They're not in the same press briefing these days. But I have audio from 1 year ago. Like to hear it. Here it go. We begin with Governor J.B. Pritzker. Let's go back into time, guys.
But we as elected leaders can't take any chances with the health of our residents. Because of what we've seen nationally and across the world of the increased risk of large gatherings, this was the right call. Now that we've reached the stage where we're seeing regular new coronavirus cases reflecting additional spread within our communities, we have to make every effort to minimize further spread as best we can. I want to thank the leaders that are standing with us today and to the leaders of counties across the state who are working on steps to mitigate and protect our most vulnerable residents.
1 year ago today, Ben.
It sounded like a press conference that could have been happening at any time over the last year. You know what I'm saying? Are you sure you didn't just take that press conference from last week?
I looked it up.
No, but I had an image. I mean, that was just audio, folks. So I couldn't see it, but I had an image of JB at those first press conferences, the people with the masks. That was like the first time you saw public officials with masks. It was kind of shocking, Well, you figure like a governor doesn't have to wear a mask because like powerful people don't get impacted by the stuff that hurts ordinary people. That's sort of the assumption. And then Boris Johnson, I think he was the first that got it, of powerful people, the Prime Minister of England. And then, of course, President Donnie got it. So even President Donnie got it. But yeah, so I remember that when the early days of those COVID press conferences, and Pritzker was wearing his mask. And I was like, wow, it's kind of weird to see.
I had the video. No one was wearing masks at this press conference.
This one?
No, Pritzker wasn't. Lightfoot wasn't. Lightfoot
in the background.
Oh no, yeah, there was no masks, and Lightfoot was even like doing the whole like whisper in someone's ear thing, just like putting her hand like right in the air.
That was really pre-COVID, because we did a 2 weeks guarantee, no more whispering in ears.
Yeah, right.
Wow. Although she did get the haircut, just saying. Is that a little memory from the COVID, Lori Lightfoot's haircut? Do you have any spots from Lori Lightfoot to play?
And I tested very positively in another sense. So this morning, I tested positively toward negative, right? So no, I tested perfectly this morning. Meaning I tested negative.
Boy, what a time that was, huh? We do have audio from Mayor Lightfoot. Let's go back 1 year ago, March 11th, 2020.
Well, we're going to continue the messaging around what should be happening. And certainly we'll be prepared if there are large gatherings. That's why we included not just the downtown parade, but the south side, the northwest side, and we'll be talking to other folks who are hosting events this weekend. We've talked to the people at the Irish Fellowship dinner on Friday night. We're trying to be as comprehensive as we can and give the guidance to make sure that we're keeping the public safe. But in the event that there are large-scale events, certainly our police department and our public health department will be prepared for that. Every single person I've talked to, and I know the governor shares this event, what we've got to put first and foremost is the public safety, the public health. That's what's most important. We're in a containment mode, and we're taking steps to make sure that we contain it. Of course, there's going to be an effect on our local economy, but I want to remind people we have an incredibly diverse and robust economy here in Chicago and in the northern part of the state in particular. We have recovered and done better in some instances following the Great Recession in 2008 and 2009. But yeah, of course, there'll be some impact. Yes, sir.
By the way, always, 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 it's one of my favorite moments, the rabble of the reporters barking out their questions. That got cut off at the end of Lori Lightfoot's comments. And I see whenever there's a movie in the some kind of scandal, and the person at the center of the scandal exits the federal courthouse or the courthouse where they've appeared before a judge, and the throng of reporters come at them. Are you guilty? The reporters get a bad. We don't look good in those movies, Steve. Just saying. Anyway, that brought back that memory. So nobody was wearing masks then. I guess it was like what, about another week or so before they got into the mask thing. Is that what it is? At the time, they didn't think they needed to wear masks because she's whispering in the ears. That's interesting. And also, if you noticed, obviously she was talking about canceling the St. Patrick's Day parade. I presume that's what she was getting at about talking about parades. But still, the emphasis on how great Chicago is, how strong Chicago is, we shall survive. That's something else I remember about the early days of the pandemic. The uncertainty that our leaders, not just Lori Lightfoot, but just in general, our leaders did not want to look like they were panicking. Remember that? Remember those days, D's? Encouraging people, go out to eat. No, help the businesses, go out to eat. And then, 2 weeks later, don't go anywhere, stay at home. Yeah, well, I think it was you that said it yesterday. It's the first time we ever had to deal with this. There were no rules. They're sort of just making it up as they went along.
All right. And, for the hell of it, it wasn't a year ago. It was about maybe like 8 months ago. But let's go back into time for one more memory.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think. If you think we
no offense, well, fuck you then. Who are you to tell me I'm full of shit?
Oh my God. Raylo, I love you. That's got to be my favorite. Is that my favorite COVID memory? No offense. I would say technically anytime you're about to tell somebody to F off. Notice I didn't say it, D. I'm preparing myself for the Adolfo interview. By the way, good luck getting this Adolfo interview on Lumpen Radio. I don't know, Raylo. Anytime you drop the F-bomb on someone, they're probably going to get offended, even if you say no offense.
Yeah, it turns out it's not how no offense works.
No offense, but fuck you.
No offense, but the most offensive thing I could say to you.
Oh, my God. What a city, folks. We could have lived anywhere. This is where we decided to live, Chicago, Illinois. No offense, Madam Mayor.
All right, and I know we're talking about the mayor, but let's go back to the governor.
The enemy is you.
Well, I've never. Shout out to Shia Campos in Illinois Politico for their hard work here. It says here, a new poll shared with Illinois Politico indicates that Illinois residents have a mixed opinion about Governor J.B. Pritzker, who has now spent a third of his term managing the coronavirus pandemic. The survey, conducted by 1892 Polling, a firm that conducted former Governor Bruce Rauner as a client during his successful 2014 gubernatorial campaign. It shows 40.6% of Illinois residents view Governor Pritzker favorably, compared to 41%. And, well, my favorite, 18% of the people asked said, I don't know, what the hell are you talking about? Huh? Who? We have some more information to go over this here, but Ben, your initial thoughts on what we just talked about here.
Well, I'm with you this on one point. The undecided at any poll. It's always my favorite part. I'm not taking a stand. I don't really trust you. I never really heard of J.B. Pritzker, so I'm just going to wing it. I haven't made up my mind yet.
That's a tough one. Can I call you back?
That's the ultimate duck and dodge of a poll. I haven't really made up my mind. What's it to you? What am I going to get out of this? All right, that was my initial response. Just that 18% undecided. A little bit of skepticism, D. I'm going to just express this at the start. This is Bruce Rauner's polling firm. They're pollsters of the Republican persuasion. Little skeptical. Skepticism is a healthy thing to have. So it's like when the mayor's people call me up and tell me our internal polls show us that the mayor, Lori Lightfoot, is more popular than the Beatles. I'm like, whoa. Then I think it's the mayor's internal polls. So I'm always a little skeptical, D. Just a little skeptical of a partisan pollster, and then publishing it this way. It's, it's just, there's a difference between what? A poll and propaganda. And this is intended, I think, to get started the Republican campaigns against Pritzker, put into people's minds that somehow Pritzker is vulnerable, getting reporters talking, like when they sit around the table at WTTW for the News Affairs show. So, Mary Sue, a poll just came out showing Pritzker was only viewed favorably by 40%. And Mary Sue will say, I know Governor Pritzker has been battered by people's attitudes about the COVID. It's going to be a long shot for Governor Pritzker. So you get it in their heads. It's a good tactic, D. So I'm a little skeptical as to how valid that poll is.
There we go. There went that positivity we were having about 10 minutes ago. That's what we need, all right? We need that skepticism, sir. All right, let's see here. We have some information. We're going to read more from this poll here. It says interviews were done February 17th through the 21st by cell phones and landlines. Oh, boy. For the
Who'd they get on a landline?
I don't know.
Did they get Phyllis?
They may have gotten Phyllis.
I think Phyllis is in that poll. Oh, no wonder it's so hostile to Pritzker. She's not a fan, D. Not a fan.
And it says here the poll states 39% of respondents identified as Democrats, 25% were Republican, and 27% independent. And many had mostly favorable views of the Black Lives Matter movement, police officers, teachers union, and their local school boards. All right, so let's find out the numbers here. Let's take a look at this poll that Ben's calling hogwash on, quite frankly.
Right. Those words were not mine. Those were Dennis's, but I believe they're applicable.
He's calling hogwash, people. All right, so I'm pulling up this poll right now, and we will see what the numbers are. A downstate show, guys. I'm in my mom's apartment. Crazy, right? It's not that funny, Ben. All right.
So you'll get out of that apartment, D. Just be patient. You'll make your way up out of the basement. Ma! My favorite show. What was it? The Wedding Crashers. Ma! Remember Will Ferrell in the basement, his mom's house?
All right, so let's see here. So they asked this poll here whether they favor it or don't favor it or no opinion. Let's do the Black Lives Matter organization here. According to this poll, 48% found Black Lives Matter favorable, 36% unfavorable, and 7%. I don't know. What are you asking me this for? Those numbers surprise you at all, Ben?
Yeah, not really. Those numbers don't surprise me. Again, it's a Republican poll. And I remember that right after, God, man, time has just flown by, but right after George Floyd was murdered in Minnesota, and there was those initial protests, there was much higher favorable rating in polls for Black Lives Matter. And then, of course, as the summer wore on, protests turned to violence in many cities, having nothing really to do with Black Lives Matter, I might point out. The tide began to turn. And then, of course, Donald Trump's propaganda machine just began unleashing attacks, linking Black Lives Matter to rioters. Again, no correlation whatsoever. But it doesn't stop Republican propaganda machine from making one. And so then you saw polls of Black Lives Matter's popularity falling, or favorability rating falling. So 48 to 36 in a Republican poll, I'm not surprised. The 15%, again, is hilarious. I guess it's like within the margin of error. So it's basically the same number of people who said they have no opinion about Pritzker. They're not going to say they got an opinion. That's all there is to it. They don't trust the guy. I don't know. You think they just make these numbers up, D? You think the pollster
there's a good chance. Yeah, I want to know. I want to know the number of people who didn't answer on their landline. That's the number I want.
I'm like, let's try to figure out a poll number that will look good. Hey, what if we say it's like split? Then everyone, well, must be a good poll and split.
All right. Well, I know you called hogwash, and Frank on the live stream, Chad calls the poll bullshit. But listen, all right, there's more to go here. Teachers unions on this poll. All right. On a poll asked Illinoisans their thoughts on teachers unions. 51.5% favorable, 30.8% unfavorable, and 17.7% teachers union. What is a union? What?
Not going to take a stand no matter what you say. You know what, Dave? Starting to think the whole thing was made up. I'm just saying. So, if this poll is accurate, Black Lives Matter is more favorably viewed in the state of Illinois than Governor Pritzker, and teachers unions are more favorably viewed than Black Lives Matter and Governor Pritzker. I don't know. D, I'm just saying. I think this poll's point is he's not even popular among people who like Black Lives Matter. Back to you, Dennis. Interesting results from a poll from Bruce Rauner's polling firm shows that Governor Pritzker is more unpopular in the state of Illinois than Black Lives Matter. Back to you, Dennis.
Thank you. Coming live from... Sorry.
I don't know, guys. I think you're being fed propaganda. They think they're opening that little brain of yours and pouring it in. And pour a little more in and mix it up.
Well, let's go through some more of this propaganda, huh? Let's do a few more here. They asked a question to Illinoisans on this poll from 1892. The question: do you think public universities in Illinois are too liberal, too conservative, or fair and balanced? What's so funny? Or fair and balanced in the way they teach students? Too liberal, 34.9%. Too conservative, 6.1%. fair and balanced between political perspectives, 35.6%. 23.5%. I don't know. What are you talking about? Unsure.
Wait, who was the unsure? What was
23.5.
Yeah. What a dumb question. You could tell Republicans did this poll. What a dumb question. This question plays into this Republican talking point, propaganda piece, that somehow or other there's this great mountain of liberal, robots teaching our children in schools. Like the conservatives, are indecisies. I really, you got one radical teacher here, another radical teacher there. Most teachers pretty much play it safe. The overwhelming majority of teachers have offered no political opinions whatsoever. And somehow or other, the people who emerge from our universities are not radicals. And I could say this being a radical, okay? I'm on the losing end of pretty much every election. But that doesn't stop Republican propagandists from saying they're brainwashing our children. Mary Miller and her husband were just saying this, Congresswoman Mary Miller. But she got in trouble for saying Hitler was right. When she said Hitler was right, she was saying Hitler was right that you have to brainwash young people at an early age. So she wants to brainwash young people. So that is just a Republican talking point right there. Do you think they're too liberal? Well, I'll tell you what. If they're trying to indoctrinate the youth of America and lefty policies, they're failing. The Democrats were up against the worst president in the history of the United States, Donald John Trump, a con man, doesn't pay his taxes, repeatedly lies, represents the party that's supposed to be all about family values, and was cheating on his wife with a stripper right after his wife gave birth, and they barely beat him. Electoral college. They barely beat him. And the Republicans split the Senate and are right there within shouting distance in the House. So if you're telling me that the universities of our country are brainwashing their students to fall in line behind leftist propaganda, they're doing a pretty crummy job of it. Now I have less respect for this poll than I did when you first started it.
Well, I think we got to just do one more and just round it out and see how we really feel about it, okay? Live stream chat here. Jim, I'm downstate hanging, doing the show at my mom's apartment today. We'll be doing it tomorrow as well. Jim asks if I and Darren Bailey are going to meet up for a pork steak dinner this weekend. No, but the first thing I ate when I got in town was pork steak. You better believe it. Last night, boom. Had some pork steak.
You're not hanging out with DB?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I'll hit him up. I'll see. I'll see if you want. Maybe get an exclusive Denny interview, huh? A dinner view. Huh?
A Ben Joravsky Show exclusive with Darren Bailey. But first.
Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. I'll look into that. See. So, Darren, who is going to feed them hogs when you run for governor? All right. Let's do one more from this poll, all right? Ben hates this poll, by the way, guys, if you can't tell.
It's my favorite poll ever.
He can't stand the poll. All right. Somehow the poll got X'd out of my computer, so now I have it right here. Okay, let's do one more question. It was a really good one. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Generally speaking, Illinoisans, do you think Americans are too politically correct, not politically correct enough, or just right when it comes to political correctness? The question once again, do you think Americans are too politically correct, not politically correct enough, or just right when it comes to political correctness? Too politically correct, 42.2%.
Yeah.
Not politically correct enough, 30.3%. just right when it comes to political correctness. 10.2%, 17.3%. Habita, unsure.
Dude, this is what they call a push poll. A push poll is a campaign tactic where you talk about propaganda, you feed ideas to people. So this is a Republican poll. Who even thinks about political correctness? All right, no, wait, it's true. If you get in trouble, if you say something offensive and you get in trouble and you have to pay a price for it, people that like you will go, well, that's the problem with our country today. Too much political correctness. You know, when in reality, it's just sort of like, generally people want to be treated with respect and don't want to be insulted and don't want to be reduced to a social stereotype. That's just the reality. All of us do. But when somebody we disagree with, politically speaking, speaks up on their behalf to protect themselves from insults, then, well, it's political correctness. And everybody just falls in the line. And so this is this great Republican notion that somehow or other, all their great ideas are being repressed, or as they would say, being canceled. I'm surprised they didn't call it wokeness, D, or cancel culture. I'm surprised there isn't a question about woke. Are we too woke as a country? Are we woke enough? Should we be more woke? And then the same 17 to 18%, I don't know, beats me. So this is classic Republican propaganda. And by the way, good luck insulting a Republican. They will start sobbing. How dare you? You're an elitist. You're a snob. You think you're better than us. You think you're better than our religion. You think you're better than where we live. You know, if you insult a Republican, they turn into the biggest snowflakes in the world. But they want to have the right to insult anybody they disagree with. And then if there's a response, they go, oh, well, that's what's the problem with our country. Too much wokeness. We're seeing this with the Meghan Markle thing, DD. I totally underestimated that one. You know, I'm like, who cares about the royal family in this country? I thought we went to war. You know, we had a revolution to break away from the notion of a monarchy. Nobody will care about that. Boy, was I wrong about, hello, wrong. It's people on both sides are furiously fighting over that one. But I'm seeing how it just, because it's a woman of color, made a complaint about racism in the royal family. It's like MAGA is outraged. How dare she? So many of the people who utter racial remarks all their life, and I hear, you know, D, we've been there. We all know what people say, like when no one's around. We've been there. We've heard all kinds of things. But then, like, if someone points them out, calls them out for it, they go, well, you're just too woke, too politically correct. So, D, that was the giveaway. That was the dead giveaway. Well, I guess the first one about the college campus professors. They're feeding our children too much liberal propaganda. It was a dead giveaway. Open brain, insert propaganda, mix it up, close brain, send you out. Vote for Darren Bailey. I am going to vote for Darren Bailey.
Well, now maybe it's just because I've been in downstate for over 12 hours, but I kind of liked the poll.
By the way, any Pritzker signs up?
I haven't looked. I'll be on the lookout today. I'll take a walk around and I'll give a count. Maybe that'll be tomorrow's show. I'll give a count of how many Pritzker suck signs I've seen.
We don't believe that story about Dennis going to visit his friends and family downstate. We dispatched him to downstate. Dennis, this is pre-show planning in the Ben Joravsky Show. Tomorrow there'll be a poll by Bruce Runner's polling firm that will say JB's in trouble. What we're going to do, we're going to send you downstate. I want you to count JB Pritzker suck signs. Got it? Get in that car and go. That's how we do it in the Ben Dorowski Show.
I don't have a car. Okay, everybody, don't go anywhere. Adolfo Mondragon is going to be coming up. We're going to be talking with him. Remember, you can download previous Ben Dorowski shows, Benny J bonus interviews, and so much more. ChicagoReader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. If you're listening on the download right now, check us out live sometime. 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time on the Chicago Reader YouTube channel. And if you're feeling crazy, join the live stream chat. Hang out with Jim, Frank, Steven, Ricky Tricky, Mike Girardi, Jay Marie, Jim, Doogie, all of them. Hang out with them on the live stream chat. Don't go anywhere. The Ben Dorowski Show will be right back.
The enemy is you.
And I tested very positively in another sense. So this morning, yeah, I tested positively toward negative, right? So no, I tested perfectly this morning. Meaning I tested negative.
I want an answer. I want an answer. I want an answer. I want an answer. It's not something to ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think. If you think we
No, fuck you then.
hold on.
Who are you to tell me I'm full of shit? I want an answer.
All right, hour number 2 of your Ben Dorowski Show is brought to you by SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, the Chicago Federation of Labor, and the Chicago Reader. Benny J, take it away.
You know, usually on the Ben Dorowski Show, I'm the one who gives my guests homework. I send them articles that they should read that will help us with our conversation. In this case, the roles reverse. Adolfo Mondragon, election law lawyer, sent me a voluminous, I'm just telling you, a voluminous document filled with briefs and newspaper clippings and transcripts of court proceedings. And I took a look and I go, yeah, well, you know, okay, whatever. And then I'm talking to him on the phone yesterday. He goes, did you read that stuff? And I go, of course not. He goes, just gonna wing it, are you, huh? So I said, all right. He guilt tripped me, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, he guilt tripped me. I read the whole freaking thing, Adolfo, okay? While I was getting my shot. I'm like, the guy's going, could you move your arm? I go, no, I got to read this brief from Adolfo. Anyway, we're going to get into the specifics of a very important lawsuit that Adolfo filed on behalf of his client, Byron Lopez, a frequent guest on the show. We'll be on the show on Tuesday, by the way. Fascinating lawsuit, and could have a huge impact on politics in the state of Illinois if the judges rule in your favor, Adolfo. And right now, as I told you before, I'm going to say it again. I got my money in Vegas that you're going to lose because you're going against the powers that be. And in this town, man. So we'll get into a lot of other stuff too, because I got to ask you about Joe Biden. I got to ask you about Ed Burke and Michael Madigan. and just the state of the Democratic Party. I know you have a lot of interesting things to say about that stuff. As a Bernie supporter, really curious what your thoughts of Joe Biden are right now. But let's start with your lawsuit, folks. This is really important. Get your paper out, get your pencils out, get your start taking notes, because a lot of important issues that have been raised by Adolfo and Byron. Essentially, you are challenging the ability of politicians who are under indictment or in trouble with the feds to spend money that comes to them as campaign contributions on the defense legal fees. In this case, you're going after Danny Solis. Why don't you take it from there, Adolfo? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, I mean, I guess the way we're framing it is just a little bit broader in that we're asking the courts to hold a bright line rule and say, look, campaign money cannot ever be used for legal fees that are related to criminal defense because they're not related to a campaign of any kind. And so, and that ensnares basically situations like Danny Solis's where politicians get in trouble, and then instead of paying out of their own pocket for their legal defense, they dip into the money from their campaign committees, and they use that money to pay their lawyers to defend them, ironically, against allegations that they were not behaving well while they were in office. And so it's kind of a double whammy, right? One, you're using campaign-related money for non-campaign-related matters, but on top of that, in this specific instance, you're using it also to defend yourself against allegations that you were a corrupt person in office. So this practice has occurred because the Illinois Board of Elections has had this kind of blanket rule that so long as you report that you used this campaign money for legal fees, but don't describe what they were for, that's good enough for them, and they're not going to go in asking further questions about whether or not these were campaign-related legal fees or not. So over the years, as long as you report on your disclosure that you used X amount of money for legal fees, that's it, no more, just legal fees. They won't go on a fishing expedition to see what those legal fees were about. Now, my theory is that probably over the long course of, these political campaigns, most people who reported legal fees were reporting legal fees for campaign-related matters, because we all have to remember that politicians have to hire attorneys, most of them, to submit their candidacy papers to defend themselves against objections, to maybe do a voting rights lawsuit, there's all sorts of legal matters that are campaign-related, right? And in fact, in this town, you pretty much better hire an attorney if you want to get on the ballot. So there are legitimate legal fees that are related to campaign matters. The problem comes in when you just basically disclose, I use these for legal fees, but then you dig a little bit more and you find out that these legal fees weren't campaign related. They were so that you could pay these expensive law firms to defend you from allegations of corruption coming from the federal government. And now, while I suspect some of these things happened in the past, they probably were small amounts, that got under the radar. But what brought it to my attention was that in the past couple of years, there have been prominent politicians who have gotten in trouble with the government, and because of that, have been using what I call obscene amounts of campaign money. Not $1,000 here or $10,000 there. We're talking about $200,000, $400,000, maybe over $500,000 to pay for legal fees that are for matters of personal defense against either civil lawsuits or against criminal lawsuits or criminal charges, and that have nothing to do at all with that person running for office in any matter. And so the Board of Elections has been happy to just say, so long as you put legal fees, that's fine. We don't have any beef with that. We're not going to look into it, because we have to look through so many disclosures that, we're not going to look at every time somebody says legal fees, because 90% of the time they're going to be legit. right? So over the years, they've just accepted the fact that sometimes these politicians have used it for non-campaign related matters because they have this blanket policy. And now they're stuck with guys like Burke and Madigan and Solis and God knows how many other people dipping into that fund instead of into their own pocket to finance their legal defenses. And I think that's wrong. Byron thought that was wrong. And to Byron's credit, he was brave enough to sign that complaint and stand as the complainant before the board and say enough is enough. We can't assume that all legal fees are campaign related. We have to look into these matters when there is evidence that they are not, in fact, campaign related. And that's what we're arguing now.
But first of all, let me give a shout out to Byron Cicero Lopez. This is to follow up what you said. It took a lot of guts to do that because the implications of this lawsuit, and I give a shout out to Adolfo as well. It takes a lot of guts on his part. You're a persona non grata in this town, politically speaking. But what he is doing right now is going to make him public enemy number one. And Byron is an elected official. He's already got Lori Lightfoot mad at him. Now he's got Burke and Madigan and Solis mad at him. So a lot of guts on Adolfo's part and Byron's part. So let me just say that. All right, let's go back to Danny Solis. As far as I know, has not been officially charged with any crime. Am I forgetting something? He, of course, got caught up in something nefarious and as a result agreed to wear a wire and become a sort of a federal informant. And his job, or one of his main tasks, was to try to get dirt on Ed Burke. So he was taping his conversations with Ed Burke, and that's how this story exploded in the newspaper. And this is just one of my favorite little moments about this story. And roughly November of 2018, I want to say, Danny Solis announced he was not going to run for re-election as alderman of the 25th Ward, even though he's one of the most powerful aldermen in the city council. He was the head of the zoning committee. He wanted to spend more time with his family. And his close ally, Mayor Rahm, said, "Oh, man, what a great public servant Danny Solis has been. I really hope you have a great time spending time with your kids. And, God bless you. You've earned the right to be with your family." It was just like a weepy moment where they were like hugging each other, at least virtually. And Danny was like, "That's it. I'm through with politics. I just want to be with my family and just love them." And then sometimes it's why you can't believe a thing they say, people. Sometimes drops this headline, Danny Solis wearing a wire. And all of Chicago was like, huh? I thought he was quitting to spend more time with his kids. I'm a Chicagoan. I believe whatever they say. So this is key to your lawsuit, Adolfo.
Yes, because there's several ways I could win at the appellate level. I could win, but the big win would be that the court would be like, "You're right, Adolfo. The way we read this statute means that before you could spend any campaign funds, they have to be for campaign-related expenses." And this is not one. I win, big victory, because now that means that all these legal fees that are not for campaign-related matters are illegitimate, right? That's the big win. I could still win two other ways. I could win, essentially, they say, well, in this case, we agree that this particular expenditure or whatever was not legitimate. And then the third way I could win is if they say, okay, you read the statute wrong, the state board is right. There is some connection between these fees paid to the lawyers, because if he's convicted somehow in the future, maybe if he ever runs again, he won't be able to run again, right? And that's how it's connected to a campaign-related matter. But you're right. Under the facts here, Danny Solis, on the day he spent this money, was no longer in the business of running for office because he himself had retired. He publicly said it. He took his pension, and he didn't run for the two offices that he held. So all the facts indicate that on the day that he spent this money, he had no political future because he himself had said, I don't have a political future. I am retiring, and therefore you win, Adolfo. But it's a very, very narrow winning because now you would basically have to be retired not to be able to use it for your legal defense. But I'll take it. If that's what they give me, I'll take it. But the big win would be, no, Adolfo, you're right. The statute says that before you can use this money, it must be campaign related. And as a matter of law, money that you spend to defend yourself against criminal charges is not campaign related ever, ever, ever.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I gotta give Danny Solis this bit. He's no dope. He went out and hired a pretty good defense lawyer, pretty good election law lawyer, Michael Dorf.
Yes, he did.
To argue his case. So it's quite a showdown, a battle of heavyweights, Adolfo Mondragon versus Michael Dorf. I think Michael Dorf went to Columbia Law School. Am I correct on that one?
Yeah, I believe so. University of Chicago undergrad.
And Adolfo was reversed. He went to Yale undergrad and University of Chicago Law School. So they have a sort of a gentleman's agreement, as I understand it. Whoever loses is going to have to sing the other school's fight song. So Dorf, better study up on that Yale fight song. No, Dorf's like, I got him. I got to win this case. But Michael Dorf comes back and he says, and here's his argument. And he won this. He just point out.
Well, he actually, no. Let me technically correct you. He won, but he didn't win on any of his arguments. They gave another reason. But go ahead. You could tell what
the argument. There's 11 reasons. I think it was Dorf that said this. Maybe it was maybe I'm mixing up Dorf with the hearing officer. But they said to you, Adolfo, there's 11 reasons stipulated there's 11 expenses stipulated in the state law that you absolutely cannot spend election funds on, like getting a haircut. Can't spend it on. Right. But it doesn't say anything about hiring. It doesn't specifically stipulate that you cannot spend money hiring a criminal defense lawyer. So therefore, if the legislators didn't stipulate it, they didn't mean for it to be in the law. Right. So sorry, you lose. Your response to that argument.
And that's a very sophist argument. It's a very smart argument. It sounds really, really, plausible and reasonable, but it's not for these reasons, because the state law defines what an expenditure means, and the expenditure, according to the law, says that it must be campaign related. The expense must be related to you either running for office, running for re-election, or running for. So you have to be in a campaign running for an office, essentially, and so his argument, the part of the law that he's talking about, says the following expenditures as defined by the code are not allowed, and then it denotes 11 specific reasons. Well, the way I read it, and I think that the correct way of reading that is, it means that because it's an expenditure, it must first, before we go into the 11 reasons, as a threshold matter, it must first meet the definition of what an expenditure is. So in other words, there's a two-part test. The first part of the test is this use of money an expenditure? And then if it is campaign related, we have to take a further look into it. Is it an expenditure, but one that we don't like and therefore is illegitimate? And these are 11 expenditures of that type. And what Mr. Dorf is saying is that, well, all legal fees are expenditures, but that's not correct, because as we both know, there are some legal fees that are campaign related and other fees that are not. So for example, if I'm a candidate for office and I use campaign money to go to an attorney to do estate planning, tell me to do a revocable living trust and to put my assets here or there, and I use campaign money for that. Well, I don't think that's campaign related. It's a legal fee, but it's not campaign related. Now, on the other hand, if I use campaign money as a politician and say, hey, Adolfo, can you help me prepare my candidacy papers for my reelection? Yes, that's campaign related. That's a legitimate legal use. So Mr. Dorf's argument basically assumes as a precondition that all legal fees are an expenditure and therefore campaign related. And therefore, you have to look at these 11 reasons. You have to bypass the first part of the test and go into the second part of the test. And I'm saying you don't even meet the first part of the test, because the use here is not an expenditure as defined by the code. We don't even get to the 11 reasons that are the 11 purposes that are strictly prohibited. But you don't even meet that standard. You don't even meet the threshold. And that's what his argument assumes. So it's very sophist in that way.
Well, I would say, going back to the original point I made, that he has the advantage, and I'll tell you why and get your response to this. If they rule in your favor, it's an appellate court. If the appellate court rules in your favor, their decision could be immediately applied to the cases of Ed Burke and Michael Madigan. Ed Burke and Michael Madigan are both, Ed Burke was literally indicted. Michael Madigan has been tied to this larger investigation of Commonwealth Edison, and both of them are spending a lot of money on defense fees with their lawyers, and they're using campaign treasure chests to fund those defense fights. So if the appellate court says Adolfo's right and Danny Solis is wrong, and Danny can no longer spend your campaign cash on your defense fees, it's going to apply to two of the most powerful Democrats in the state of Illinois, two of who used to be, I would probably say, the most powerful Democrats in the state of Illinois, but still have a lot of clout, still have a lot of friends, particularly in judicial circles, because they had so much to do with the slating of judges throughout the state. So there will be wide-ranging ramifications, Adolfo, if the appellate court rules in your favor. And that is my very cynical, been living in Chicago too long attitude about the judges. Please explain to me why I'm way too cynical for my own good. Go ahead.
Well, I think that your cynicism is grounded in some good history. And I think that the reason why this practice has been allowed in the first place is precisely because of the clout that the people who are doing this have. Right, so you just put legal expenses, we'll take your word, they're campaign related, move forward, there's nothing to see here, right? But I think there are a couple of things, when you put your finger to the wind to see where the wind is blowing, I think that the wind is changing now in that, like you said, some of the people who are doing this or practicing this, using campaign money to pay for their private legal defense, are on their way out, are on their way down, and so that is perhaps a signal to the courts that maybe the threat or the fear of retribution from these powerful people is not as as much of a concern now. That's one thing. Two, and I told you this off the air, is that a very interesting thing has occurred in this case at the appellate level, in that whenever you appeal something against a state agency, the Attorney General's office is assigned to represent that agency before the appellate court. Now, remember, the Illinois board is going up as the winner here. They won. They made their decision. My client lost. So all they have to do is just write a brief defending the decision of the hearing officer and giving all the reasons why the appellate court should sustain those reasons. But they've chosen in this case, interesting enough, I've never seen this before, they have chosen not to defend their hearing officer with a written brief. They said, you know what? No, we're not going to write one. That's fine. We'll leave it up to Mr. Solis's committee to write one if they want to do so, and they have. Danny Solis's committee, represented by Mr. Dorf, has written their own sets of arguments of why this ruling should be upheld. But the board itself, interestingly enough, is not defending their position. I've never, ever seen that ever happen. And if I'm an appellate court judge and I'm sitting there and I'm saying, well, the main defendant is not even writing anything to defend themselves, that's telling me that they're waving the white flag, or at best they're saying, if you want to rule against us, go ahead. We don't mind. So it's a very interesting situation in that, one, the people in power, the very powerful people are doing this, because there are other people who are not as powerful who are also practicing this. That there are more people indicted, currently in other cases that are not as, clout heavy as these individuals. Yeah. They're also doing this practice. But also the board itself has chosen not to submit a written argument defending its position. That's really odd. And to me, that signals like, well, maybe we've thought about it, and you know what? If you want to overturn us, we don't care. And the third thing is, if you've read the documentation I gave you, when we went before the board, there were many board members. They've ultimately voted against us, and their argument was like, well, the law doesn't require it, so our hands are tied. But many of them were vociferous that they thought that what Danny Solis did was a very disreputable thing, and that politicians should not be able to use campaign funds to pay for their criminal defense. So at least 3 or 4 of those board members were on my side sympathetically, but they ultimately said, well, we're just a board. Unless the law says specifically no legal fees for this, we're not going to overrule it. But that was another wink to the appellate court saying, like, look, if you want to change this or you want to interpret it differently, go ahead. Because we think what Danny Solis did was not correct.
All right. Well, we'll end this particular discussion right there. I'm for what it's worth, and it's worth nothing because I don't sit on any appellate board. I'm not a hearing officer, but I think it's absurd and ridiculous that politicians can use money that somebody gave to them for a campaign expense on a criminal defense. I just think
right.
that
Well, you could do hypotheticals. Well, what if he was defending himself against a charge of first-degree murder? Would it be okay to use the campaign fund for that? It's a criminal charge. It's a legal defense, you know? So there's all sorts of little hypotheticals you could talk about in terms of, well, is that legit? Is that not legit? Well, what makes it legit, right?
And by the way, all you liberals here in Illinois who are maybe sympathetic because these are Democrats, think about what your attitude will be when Donald Trump, who is about to face a lot of criminal charges, my prediction, starts dipping into that campaign treasure chest that he's amassed and is amassing right now as he hits up MAGA for contributions. Just think about that for a moment. You'll be singing a different song if it's Donald Trump who's spending the money on his legal defense. By the way, before we leave this, you're probably public enemy number one to all the defense lawyers in the state of Illinois. What are you doing? This is the golden goose, Adolfo.
Well, I gotta think that those guys, at those highfalutin law firms are like, dude, you're taking away hundreds of thousands of dollars from us. And hey, but what's right is right. Look,
all right,
campaign money, campaign expenses.
All right, very good. Let's make the pivot and close and talk a little bit about the politics that have been going on in your neck of the woods. Adolfo Mondragon is a proud son of the southwest side of Chicago, back in the yards, Brighton Park, proud graduate of Curie High School. Still lives on the southwest side. He's very proud of that fact. Never moved to the north side. Loves his White Sox. And I love the White Sox too. But I live on the north side. So your neck of the woods, things have changed. They've changed significantly with Michael Joseph Madigan. For years and years and years, he was the state rep from district right around Midway Airport. And he, of course, decided to step down as House Speaker, step down as chairman of the Illinois Party, made a royal mess, in my opinion. You may disagree with me about the process to appoint a successor once he had stepped down as state rep. The guy he picked had to step down within 3 days for some unmentioned reason. Something he did wrong. And so someone else had to be appointed to replace him. And so your thoughts about Michael Joseph Madigan leaving the stage. He was the dominant figure, one of the two Irishmen on the southwest side. Ed Burke and Michael Joseph Madigan were the dominant political figures when you were coming of age politically. What's
right,
your
and
thoughts
don't forget about the Lipinskis too, right? So
Lipinski. Oh my goodness, how can I forget the Lipinskis? They went down as well. These are the people, Adolfo, when you were coming up the ranks, it was William Lipinski, Danny Lipinski, Ed Burke, and Michael Joseph Madigan, giants, and now they're all fading from the scene. Go ahead.
Right. Well, it brings to mind a Mexican proverb that basically, loosely translated in English, is something like, there's no illness or malady that can last 100 years, nor is there a sick person or patient who can withstand it, right? So basically, everything comes to an end at some point. Some things take longer than others. And the Tribune just, I think this past Sunday, had a whole thing about how the landscape around the city has changed, including on the southwest side. And it definitely has. Now, how much has it changed? Or, has it changed for the better? I think it probably has changed for the better, but has it changed dramatically in terms of the way politics carries on? That's where I don't know that, that we've left behind the old ways of doing things entirely. Now, like you mentioned to me, it's not a machine anymore, because to be a machine, you need patronage, and that pretty much has been stamped out. There's probably little inklings here and there of where maybe a politician has still pulled to get people jobs, particularly like at the city clerk's office or something like that, right? But so that to that extent, I think that it has changed dramatically. But to the extent that it's the people who have now replaced the Madigans, are they moving forward and fomenting a style of politics that's dramatically different? I don't know. I don't know if that's really the case. Are the people who are replacing them advocating more progressive or politics that are for the little person? Perhaps. I think you could probably say that. Is it enough? And that's where I think maybe the whole thing about the style of politics comes in. And I would tend to say that probably the people who are now taking over the remnants of the fall of Madigan and Lipinski's and Burks, et cetera, are probably in general, doing things a little bit for the better, and are taking care of the person down, the ordinary person a little bit better. But I don't know that the game of politics has changed. I think that the way of picking successors and sponsoring new candidates is still kind of in the old way of thinking. It's still very, it's us against them, and very protective of my interest versus the public's interest in who I support for this office or that office. It's not like supporting the best talent that's out there. It's like, we'll support people who will be my puppets and who will pass on and do whatever my bidding is. And I think that part of politics is still the same on the Southwest side.
Yeah, I think it's still the same throughout the city of Chicago, actually. It's very transactional, Chicago. The Chicago mentality when it comes to politics is very transactional. I do this for you, you do it for me. I'm not even talking about illegal transactional. I'm just talking about swapping. And then people get mad if you don't do it. And Lori Lightfoot is very much that way. She's made that clear. She expects people to support her. When they don't support her, she gets upset at them. And that's just sort of that Chicago mentality that's at play. I gotta get your thoughts on this, a little piece of delightful irony. Ed Burke, who many, many years ago, Adolfo briefly worked for, and I always smile when I say that, because we did a radio show, and sometimes I would pick him up to go to the radio station at Ed Burke's office. And I go, don't tell him I'm picking you up, okay? But Ed Burke, of course, machine alderman from way back, finance chair, supported every dumb idea that any mayor came up with wholeheartedly, looked the other way as they played all kinds of budget games to use funds intended for Peter to pay Paul, whatever it took, cheered them on, called them all geniuses. All of a sudden, Ed Burke, of course, gets indicted, falls out of favor. Lori Lightfoot gets elected mayor in part by pounding away at Ed Burke like a piñata. Ed Burke somehow or other manages to get reelected in the 14th Ward. Heck of a job, 14th Ward voters. And suddenly, last week, he takes all that expertise that he had picked up as years and years of finance chair, all that expertise of how mayors sort of play this budget game, moving money around wherever they need to move it to spend it, whether it's intended for that purpose or not, to criticize, I thought very effectively, Lori Lightfoot for spending $281 million of COVID relief on police. He goes, that's not a legitimate police expense, Madam Mayor. I couldn't argue with him, Adolfo. I could not argue with him. He was absolutely correct. And I had to point out, the man is right. He learned a thing or two from Scotty Wagasback. But what a joke. Ed Burke is reformer. Your response, Adolfo, when you saw Ed Burke speaking up as though he were Marty Oberman or Dick Simpson or Scotty Wagasback. Go ahead.
Well, the first thing that surprised me was the fact that he actually spoke up, because he's been silent for, since this new administration began, except for the first meeting where he had it out with Lori Lightfoot. She basically told him to shut up and sit down. I think that he's been pretty quiet. So that's the first thing that surprised me. That he couldn't articulate a reasonable and good argument doesn't surprise me, because the man is very intelligent, and he's been around and he has amassed a lot of not only experience but wisdom. How he uses that experience and wisdom, however, in the past, is debatable depending on your political view or your stance in the local politics. But there's irony there, right? Because this is the kind of issue that would be a no-brainer for Burke in the past to argue in defense of Lori Lightfoot. This is the kind of thing that he often defended. And now all of a sudden he's articulating good arguments against it. It really is ironic in that sense, because it's the tables turned. But the thing you have to understand about Burke is that, he's a guy who is an old school Edmund Burke. Is it Edmund Burke, the old legal scholar who basically said that what was the quote? That there's no permanent
enemies, only permanent interests.
Interests, exactly right. And so today, somebody who should have been your ally or whatever can be your enemy, and you can easily turn around from being on one side to another based on whatever the interest is at the moment. And here, it's in his interest to get a little retribution against Lori Lightfoot, who, like you said, rode into office beating them up like a piñata, and during that first council meeting, made it a point to denigrate Burke. And so I think he's taking delight in the fact that even as his, he's at the sunset of the end of his career, he could still stand up and take some pretty good shots back at the mayor.
Yeah, I think you said something before we went to air that I was thinking about. Like, usually when Ed Burke makes a maneuver or a play, it's because he has a particular interest in mind. Like, so he's doing, again, that's that Chicago transactional mentality. Ed Burke has it. Rahm Emanuel has it. I'm doing XYZ because I expect something for it. It's never about a principle. It's never about, a belief. It's like, I'm going to get something out of it. I really can't see what he got out of being a public nuisance to Lori Lightfoot, other than annoying Lori Lightfoot. And I think that may be all
don't
he
underestimate
needed.
Personal satisfaction, right? I mean, particularly at where he's situated now at his stage of his career. I mean, look, the man has gotten everything he's ever wanted throughout his career, right? I mean, there really isn't anything more material or, otherwise that, he could probably still yearn for more of it, but he's gotten it all that anyone could ever ask for in his career. So now maybe just some personal gratification is giving him enough joy to do this stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be it. It could be nothing more than that. But I got to say, I had a big smile on my face. And we talked a lot about it on the show, Adolfo, and I was like, can't argue with them. They are really taking for Peter and pay Paul. But of course, he didn't have anything to say about it when Mayor Daley was doing it, when Mayor Rahm.
Right.
Anyway, Adolfo, I'm going to let you go. We appreciate you coming on the show. We're going to bring you back, win or lose. If you lose the case, you're coming back. We're going to make you sing whatever the Columbia fight song is.
There's always the Illinois Supreme Court, right? So,
and I'm sure Ann Burke, who is a member of the Supreme Court, will have to sit out that one, right?
Right. Well, I think that would be obvious. You'd have to recuse yourself.
Recuse yourself. That is the word. Yes.
Right. But I'm happy that we'll come back. in good shape. It's just a matter of, remember, I have 3 shots at the apple, but I really want that big win, the one which will change the landscape for all of Illinois.
All right, I have to say
better.
something. I don't know if it's the COVID shot that you got before I got mine, but you went through this entire interview without dropping the F-bomb. You proved Dennis and myself wrong. So either it's a new Adolfo, or like I said, it's just temporary because the COVID shot has pacified you.
No, I like to be a little unpredictable there once in a while, right?
Once in a while. Remember to never forget the time you literally came into the studio. You had heard something that one of my guests had said before you got there, something I had said, and that is beep. I'm like,
oh, that's the record, right? That's the record.
That was the record. No, but you dropped it before you sat down. I'm like, that's the record.
That's awesome.
All right, Adolfo, we're gonna go to a White Sox game this year. I feel it. I got my first shot. You have 2, or did you get 1?
Hey, and seriously, if I get opening week tickets, are you up for it or not?
I don't think I'll have my second shot in time for opening day. But I'm talking June. What's that? I'm talking. Yeah, I'm not playing, man. I'm waiting till the shot kicks in. I'm going to go out and see the White Sox. I'm really excited about it.
Well, I got season tickets this year, so we'll definitely go.
All right, that's a great Adolfo Mondragon. Thanks so much, Adolfo, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Dennis.
What's up, man?
Shout out to my brother.
Hey.
All right.
Thanks for not cursing.
I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. See you,
Take
bud.
care, Adolfo. All right. Do you got any updates before we head out that door?
Oh, here's an update. Not one curse word from Adolfo. How crazy was that?
You with your 47, me with my 26, or maybe it was the other way around. He proved us wrong.
You know what? He may make Lumpin' Radio this Friday. That's right, guys. We're on Lumpin' Radio 105.5, which I believe airs in Bridgeport Fridays at 12 p.m. Just a 1-hour show. I take a pre-recorded interview, one where people don't curse, so I don't have to put too much work into it. And then I throw it up there. Hey, maybe Adolfo made it this week.
There was no cursing. I didn't curse. He didn't curse. Nobody cursed. So he proved me wrong. He proved me wrong.
And hey, Ben, you know what? Our experiment here went off without a hitch. I'm downstate. You're in Chicago. The internet's working just fine. We did it. That's great.
Yeah, we did it.
You know, let's just call it early to quit while we're ahead. You know what? Let me just check real quick with the newsroom, make sure we don't have anything. Hang tight. Let me run in there. Hey, guys, come on. Give me a story. Yeah, it's my mom's apartment. Don't touch anything. Nothing. We have no updates.
Moved the newsroom from your apartment to your. Were they in the back of the Ferrari when you drove down there?
They tagged along. They followed.
That's all. Well, this proves that we'll be doing our remotes from Hawaii in about a year.
Okay. Well, once again, if you're going to Hawaii, I'm going to Hawaii. All right. We'll both be in the same area, so that's not going to be happening. But hey, remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, and so much more. ChicagoReader.com. Or wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. All right. Send us an email, BennyJShow@gmail.com. BENNY, the letter J show @gmail.com. Leave your name and where you're from if you'd like us to read your email on the show. Dragon Slayer 19 sent us an email. Ben, I'm going to send that your way. Maybe we'll read it on tomorrow's program. And you can call the Ben Joravsky Show. It's true. 708-658-4788. That number again, 708-658-4788. Call the Ben Joravsky Show. Leave us a voicemail. There's a good chance we will play that voicemail on the program. Become a Ben head. That's an avid listener of the Ben Joravsky Show. There's 3 ways you could do it. Go to Ben Joravsky or ChicagoReader.com/Ben Joravsky. Or just Joravsky, J-O-R-A-V as in victory, S-K-Y. Donate if you want. If not, it's fine. Just keep listening to the Ben Joravsky Show. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
All right, I want to thank Adolfo Mondragon, doing a great job as he always does. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride of Alton, Illinois, without whom the show would be possible. And as Mama Vicky, Uncle Eldon, and Aunt Cindy will all tell you, back home in Alton, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
I want an answer.